Hello, everybody. We are back from lunch. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and we are going to move right into our PSL Economic Outlook. Good afternoon, Mr. Hunter.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me back again.
Yes, happy to have you.
Well, here to talk about what's going on with the local economy here in your city. And the news is the same as last time. The growth is happening. And if you don't want so many people moving here, stop being so charming and exciting and dynamic and such a great place to live. People are going to keep coming because those attributes exist. And this is a great city, great place to live. And so I am a housing economist, as you know, only because I didn't have enough personality to be an accountant. But the way I look at the world is, sorry about the accountants that are moaning behind me.
I don't know. We do have a couple accountants here that have some great personalities. Yeah. So we got to give it to them.
Better than an economist, believe me. So the way I look at things as a housing economist is through the lens of what economic development is happening in the residential development space and what is going on. So I'm going to show you some graphs here on the screen that illustrate that. Okay, there we go. So no surprise, residential development and migration into the area, both domestic and international, heavily domestic in this area, are major drivers of economic activity in your city. So you have developments, obviously, like Tradition and Riverland and others that are continuing to attract people and sell homes. Now, you'll see in this graph that we saw an extreme peak in the year 2021. So during and after COVID, obviously, there was a huge surge, and we've kind of stabilized at a lower rate of development since then, still well above pre-pandemic levels. But the rate of development has slowed down for a couple of different reasons, among those being that interest rates have gone higher, mortgage rates have gone higher, and that has made it more difficult for people to afford to buy homes. It's also caused what we call the lock-in effect, and that is the people that have a 3.5% mortgage up in New Jersey can't sell their house or don't want to sell their house and move to Florida because then they'd have to get a 6.5 or whatever percent mortgage rate today if they move into a different home. Or if they buy from a home builder, they can probably get a mortgage rate buy down and get something more in the 4.99% range. And sometimes that's a permanent buy down, sometimes it's a temporary buy down. But there's still that gap, and that's still very hard to overcome. The other big problem is what the developers call and the home builders call house to sell. House to sell means I can't find a buyer for my house up in New Jersey or New York or wherever because of the lock-in effect that we were just talking about. So all these things are kind of conspiring to slow things down, whether we want that or not. A lot of affordability issues. The migration into Florida has come down very substantially from where it was. And part of that is there was a pull forward effect, as we call it. That is that people bought during that surge here in 2021 and 2022 who ordinarily would have bought a home perhaps in 2024, 2025, and they moved their purchase forward. And so that pulled the sales forward, and that meant that they didn't have to then buy another house in 2025, and that's partly why, again, the sales were slower. And this is a graph that gets into a little bit more detail about the home builders and their activity. So what we see here is starts, shown by the blue line, and then closings or move-ins as the green line. So closings had outpaced starts back in 2024, but now this year, the two have come back into alignment with one another. And this graph, again, kind of goes to that topic of the cost of ownership. So this is the rising cost to own. So what we're looking at here is a few examples of houses that somebody might buy within the city of Port St. Lucie. So the median price house comes with a monthly payment all in, including, PMI, interest, taxes, HOA, obviously the mortgage rate payment itself, and maintenance and insurance. So all of that adds up to about $3,582 per month. And then if you have some of these other examples, the other bars here, specific homes within places like Central Park and on Becker Road. It just shows you that you could easily be up to $3,900 a month for a monthly payment. And here is the median price, $410,000 as of December 2025. And the median price has appreciated 7.9% since January 23. So we are seeing home prices have gone higher. They've kind of leveled off and flattened in recent months and in the last year. And the home builders are offering concessions and incentives to get people to buy their homes. The home builders are feeling a pinch. Last year, they did experience slower sales and higher concessions on those homes, especially on the active adult communities. The families are continuing to come here and happily buying homes because your job growth is continuing apace, and people are relocating here for work. But the retirees are slowing down at the moment, partly because the retiree buyer typically doesn't have the urgency that somebody does if they have gotten a new job in Port St. Lucie and they have to move. That person has to move and either rent or buy a house. In the case of retirees, they can just say, I can just wait another year and see how things go. Maybe they're worried about the economy, maybe they're worried about politics, or just house to sell problem again. But what you also have going for you, besides the dynamic, exciting economy here, is that you are less expensive than West Palm Beach. For example, this shows several different cities, including Port St. Lucie, shown as the light blue bar. It's kind of near the bottom there. Cape Coral is the green line that's just underneath you. And these are just the municipal areas themselves, not the MSA, but the city itself. Tampa is shown as the dark green. West Palm Beach at the very top there is the blue line, and St. Petersburg, for good measure, is shown just to illustrate the West Coast, and that is the green line that's just below West Palm Beach. So you're looking at quite a spread between city of West Palm Beach and city of Port St. Lucie, and people are increasingly moving here because it is more affordable, and you can get the lifestyle and a little bit less of the hustle bustle, and that is a key driver for the migration out of South Florida. For my whole career, I've been studying this market and your city for my whole career, about 40 years now, and throughout that whole period, the story has been the same. The growth is moving from south to north. At first, it was people moving out of Miami-Dade County into Broward County, then Broward County into Palm Beach County, Palm Beach, and then kind of skipped over Martin County to a large degree because of the very restrictive attitudes towards development there, and came here. And that is, this just illustrates very clearly the cost savings. I remember back in the 2000s, there was a billboard on I-95 coming out of northern Palm Beach County that said, save $2,000 per mile. Go buy in Port St. Lucie. Today, there would probably be a $3,000 or $4,000 per mile number. A topic comes up a lot when thinking about the housing market, which is inventory. A lot of the builders nationwide have seen a piling up of inventory of unsold homes. That is not very much in evidence here in your market. Here I've graphed the different markets that I showed you a moment ago, the different cities, and West Palm Beach has 6.1 months of supply of inventory of new homes, and Port St. Lucie has only 4.6 months of supply, which is actually a fairly low level. It did spike up a little bit last year, but it's come back down. And here we're looking at the inventory compared to sales and sales prices of homes. And we see the home prices, as I said, are settling in that $400,000 range, kind of edging down just very slightly in the latest year. And again, inventories are higher than they had been, for sure, but still on a months of supply basis, they're not a problem overall. So one of the things that also comes up a lot is, what about mortgage rates? That's been a big issue that has slowed down sales. It's made it a lot harder for people to afford a home. And there have been some moves and announcements being driven by the White House that have possibly set us up for some lower mortgage rates. And I have two kids. They are 12 and 9 years old, and they've heard me talking to colleagues and clients about mortgage rates and how they've typically been in the range of 6-7%. And so, you know, for some reason that makes them crack up. If you know, you know. But now the possibility exists that we'll start hearing numbers that are below 6%. We could see mortgage rates dip slightly below 6 and get into the 5 range, and then I can stop making my kids laugh. And it'd probably make a lot of other people happy. But it's not as simple as just saying, okay, we're going to have Fannie and Freddie start buying mortgage-backed securities on the secondary market and spend $200 billion, and that fixes everything. I think that move, if it goes into effect, will bring down mortgage rates for a short period of time, so get ready to lock in. But I don't think that it will be enough. $200 billion, after all, sounds like a lot of money, but it's not in the realm of bond markets. Just to put that into perspective for you, when the Federal Reserve Board started buying mortgage-backed securities in the Great Financial Crisis, they spent $1.2 trillion. Yeah, a trillion here and a trillion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money. So that puts that into perspective. The $200 billion that is being talked about now will probably not keep interest rates low for very long. And there are a lot of factors that are pushing interest rates around that the Fed can't control. And that kind of leads me to this topic, which is there is a new Fed chair coming in. By the way, the current chair will probably stay as part of the Fed, but just not be the chair anymore. So Kevin Warsh is coming in. And the interesting thing about this is that if you look at his past remarks and his attitudes towards what the Fed should do, it doesn't seem like it lines up very much with what President Trump would like to have happen. Trump would like mortgage rates to come down. But Warsh historically has been staunchly against buying mortgage-backed securities and thinks that process of buying bonds by the Fed went way too far. He also has been a bit hawkish about inflation and not wanting to lower rates too much. But lately, he has changed his tune. And he has started saying, well, now with AI, we're going to be able to grow the economy faster without creating a whole lot of inflation. And that means that we could push down interest rates. However, if you're not going to buy bonds at the Fed, then your only lever is the federal funds rate. And that is a very short-term interest rate. When the Fed lowers short-term interest rates, they have no control whatsoever over what happens to long-term interest rates. And in fact, we've seen this happen many times before. When the Fed lowers short-term interest rates, sometimes the long end of the yield curve goes higher. And that's where mortgage rates live. So it could actually be very difficult to get mortgage rates higher. So this gesture that Kevin Warsh is making, I labeled it here. Here's Warsh's historical policy stance. And oops, I went back the wrong. Dang it. Ruined my joke. Okay. Warsh's historical policy stance on that side, Trump's stance on the other side. And they are pretty far apart from one another. I don't think that's really what Warsh was talking about when he made this gesture, but that's what occurred to me. So here is a graph showing the holders of mortgage-backed security debt. And what we see is that Fannie and Freddie, shown by that blue region, have seen their holdings dwindle. And today they have very little. They only added $69 billion worth of mortgage-backed securities to their balance sheet in the second half of 2025. And then the Fed, that's the yellow color at the bottom. Of course, they, like I said, they spent $1.2 trillion. And I don't think that there's any likelihood that the Fed is going to go back into buying mortgage-backed securities. Therefore, there's probably a limited prospect for getting mortgage rates to come back down. And that's heavily because long-term interest rates are driven by things like bond markets' expectations for inflation, which, inflation is not as lower as the Fed would like inflation to be. And also we have these massive budget deficits coming up. And that will tend to compete in the bond market and drive interest rates higher. So it will be difficult, I think, to bring down mortgage rates to any significant degree. So affordability will remain an issue. And that means that your home builders here in the city will tend to continue to offer these mortgage rate buy downs in order to remain competitive and to be able to sell the number of homes they want to sell. This graph shows the spread between the 10-year Treasury and the 30-year mortgage rate. And one thing that has happened that has kept mortgage rates unusually high lately is that there's been an unusually large spread between those two. Now the spread, as you can see by the right-hand side part of the blue line there, the spread has come down, and it's almost back down to that yellow normal range. So there's not that much more room for that spread to fall. So again, not much of an argument to be made for significantly lower mortgage rates in the future, possibly slightly lower. We could get, like I said, back under 6 for a short period of time, but probably not stay there or not go much lower than that. So there are two headwinds that the builders are facing right now that I've mentioned before that could start to improve. One was that lock-in effect, and two being house to sell. Those could get better for builders if mortgage rates do come down, even if it's only for a short period of time. And that is because as you bring down interest rates, by the way, I talk about the lock-in effect being that person that has a 3.5% mortgage not wanting to go and get a 6.5% mortgage or 6.1% mortgage even. But now there are actually more people with 6% mortgages than 3% mortgages. So this lock-in effect issue kind of starts to solve itself with the passage of time. So that's starting to go away and get a little bit better, and that will help the builders. House to sell, again, if people can generate more home sales, people are more willing to make a move because of the lock-in effect starting to subside, then that'll allow more people to sell their house up north, make the move to come down here. So I think that we'll see more activity for the builders, and that means more population heading your way. This shows some of the top master plan communities in really in the whole state of Florida. The villages, if you think you're getting strong growth, the villages started 3,611 homes last year. Lakewood Ranch, 2,085, and skip on down the list to number 12 out of the state of Florida, and Tradition is there with 499, which is down from 617 the year before. And so all of this kind of leads to the discussion of population growth. So I agree with the population growth that you're relying on in your comp plan, which does show that by 2030, we'll see 301,000 people living in the city, and that's a combination of seasonal residents and permanent residents. By 2035, that number goes to 331,000. By 2040, 356,000. And along with this population growth comes changes in the makeup of the population. And part of that is the typical household income is going up. So the average household income is 103,000 going to 115,000 by 2029. The median going from 79,000 to 88,000. And currently 37% of your population has a household income of $100,000 or more. And that's expected to grow substantially in the future. You have a very diversified economy now. That's something that I harped on a lot in my presentation to you last year. And that generated a lot of interest because you do have a lot of people in healthcare. That's 18% of your employment base. Retail, construction, obviously. This is a growth-driven economy. But as you can see on this pie graph, there's a wide diversity of different kinds of jobs that exist in the city. Healthcare, I mentioned, because it is continuing to grow and creating more jobs and opportunities for people at the Innovation Center, and you have the Florida Coast Medical Center now. So continuing to expand the healthcare sector, and that's one where it does support more population growth and home sales, especially in these new home communities that rely on people that have strong incomes, and healthcare typically does end up being a high income sector of the economy. And it has multiplier effects, so it generates a lot of jobs throughout the whole stratum of the economy. And here we see the improvement of the economy locally. We see that the unemployment rate had spiked way back there during the pandemic, and it's back down to 5% today, a very sustainable level of unemployment. Some of the new employers that have moved into the area, Excel, Amazon, Cheney Brothers, et cetera. And then we look at net domestic migration into the area, and we compare that here to other counties. And so this is getting into county level data, because when it comes to migration data, it's a lot more available at the county level than at the city level. So what we see here is that Palm Beach County has seen a drop, or actually negative net migration, so people leaving Palm Beach County in 2024, but still coming in fairly large numbers in St. Lucie, not as large as in 2021, but still a lot of people coming in. I mentioned that the active adult communities are struggling right now, and the builders all around the state are reporting this, and this graph shows the top active adult communities in the state of Florida and their sales. Even at the Villages, which I mentioned to you, is the #1 master plan community in the whole state. They've seen this drop in activity in terms of new home sales. And again, it's because consumer confidence is very low, and people don't want to make a big move when consumer confidence is so low. Consumer confidence, by the way, is actually lower today than it was in the depths of the great financial crisis. So people are nervous about things. They're nervous about the economy. They're nervous about politics. So although the employed people are still coming down in pretty strong numbers, the retirees are currently hesitating. I think that that will turn around, but right now they're just kind of in a wait-and-see mode to see how things are turning out. This just confirms what we already know, which is that home sales in Florida are driven heavily by the level of mortgage rates, and now that we have seen rates go higher in the past few years, sales have fallen off around the state of Florida. I talked about inventories. At the national level, inventories have gone higher. This is showing 3 different kinds of new home inventory, and this is the orange is the under construction inventory, the number of homes that are under construction in builder communities, and the blue is the finished vacant home inventory. So those are finished homes that nobody has moved into yet, and that number has crept higher since 2021. But as I mentioned, here in Port St. Lucie, you're not seeing a lot of inventory piling up. We had a little bit of that happen in 2025, primarily in the active adult communities. But the builders responded here by reducing their starts, and that allowed the inventories to come back down to sustainable, normal levels. This graph just kind of shows on a long-term span of time what's been happening in terms of new home building activity. You can see the spike back there in the bubble of, here we go, get it to appear there, the peak. That was in 2004, 2005, which was the bubble. And the bubble crashed. We came down here, and we've come back up. And what's exciting now is that the home building activity that's occurring today is real buyers. These are people that are actually coming here to live. Back here in 2004, 2005, speculators. These homes were mostly being built for nobody. Nobody was ever intending to move into them. People bought them from the builders pre-construction, thinking they were just going to flip them, make a lot of money. A lot of people did. But then after that, all of a sudden, the investors, so-called, all went away at the same time, and that's what began the crash. And then this is the same kind of graph, but comparing the different counties in Southeast Florida, among them being St. Lucie County. So you see that St. Lucie County has actually risen to be, it used to be kind of a much lower than the Tri-County area to the south. And now St. Lucie County is responsible for more housing starts than Palm Beach or Miami-Dade or Broward County. So with that, I'll wrap up by saying you have some headwinds and some tailwinds. Headwinds being slower home sales because of affordability, slower domestic migration and affordability concerns, and the tailwinds that you have boosting you from behind are strong population growth, rising household incomes, job growth, and new employment, and it's just a fantastic city to move to, so that's why everyone wants to move here. And our expectation is that this momentum will continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hunter, I just want to clarify, you did state that we're one of the top 10 fastest growing cities in the nation. I didn't know if you wanted to cover that.
Yes, that is an important thing to note. That's right.
Yeah, we know that, that's for sure. Every other day we're seeing, posts about that, articles about that, so absolutely. Thank you so much. It was always very informative presentation. Does anyone have any comments or questions for Mr. Hunter?
Just a general question, because there has been a discussion, obviously, regarding property taxes. And much of the discussion has been to address the affordability crisis. I am not you, sir. I don't have all these numbers and all this data. But I would assume that if Florida is successful in passing a property tax abolishment, that would probably flood even more people to Florida. And in your opinion, would that make housing more expensive? Because the demand is going to be there, but the housing is not going to be ready for that demand. Is it going to further create a problem with affordability if we eliminate property tax, I guess, is the question.
It's a great question. And I don't have a lot of answers to it because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, to be very candid, to eliminate the property tax because you would have to, it's such an enormous source of revenue that is absolutely necessary to continue to run your city and to run every other city and municipality in the state of Florida. I don't know where the rest of the revenue would come from. Are you going to try to get it through sales taxes and just get the tourists to pay all of it? I guess that's the theory. I don't think that would work. So I don't think that the policy moves to eliminate property taxes have legs. I don't think it would be feasible, and I think it would be reckless. But I'm not a politician. I'm not here to for the purposes of stating opinions, but I can't help it in this case. I think I think it would have negative consequences, and I think that's the question that you're asking. It would have negative consequences because it would probably not replace all the revenue to just raise taxes on raise sales taxes, for example, and tourist taxes and so on.
I would agree with you in the sense, too, that obviously we share the same concerns with the issue of reduction of or elimination of property taxes and how that could affect service level and or other, or other methods of payment. I think the goal, and from what I'm hearing from the state, which obviously I think we all share in that goal, is the affordability of Florida and the affordability of people that live in Florida today. I have a child, I have 2 children, they want to be able to buy a home in Florida one day. Mm-hmm. And I guess my concern is if there is success in that, not only will we have the challenges of how we're going to fund local government, but I'm also concerned of exacerbating the problem of affordability for the demand that could create nationwide.
Right, and I would just say, one possible thing to bolster your concern is that impact fees are often used in place of what could be, used with property taxes. And the impact fees basically say, okay, the builder has to then probably pass on that additional whatever, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, who knows what the number would go to the home buyer. So I think it would be disastrous for home sales, and you're, as I said throughout this presentation, new home development is a key part of what's driving your population growth. So I think it would have a very severe negative impact on your economy.
Thank you.
Thank you again so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to go back to our capital projects update and start with facility projects update.
Good afternoon, Mayor,
Afternoon,
Vice Mayor,
Roger.
City Council, City Manager, Assistant City Manager, Roger Jacob, Facilities Construction Projects Director. And just wanted to go over a handful of projects that we're managing. And I'm going to go ahead and start with our project with the police training facility, huge lift. And it is a very fast-track project, and we acknowledge that from the beginning. The picture there highlights the effort casting concrete in the evening hours and working nights and weekends. I think we've done an excellent job at performing this, getting this to where we are today in the amount of time that we've been on the project. Currently, we're about 85% complete. We've got the landscaping site work remaining, and interior architectural improvements, renovations going on in the building right now that remain. And we're getting very close, and we're very happy with the outcome and looking forward to completing that project. Our substantial completion date is March 23 as contracted, and we're marching on with that. So we're going to continue with that.
So this is a perfect example of how to do a project and
Thank
get
you.
it done. So it's been really great seeing the process, and it is my hope that we can do the same with our Public Works building that's coming up, because the contractor's been amazing, all the partnerships have been amazing, and to see it be on time and getting done in the way it has been remarkable. So thank you very much for that.
And thank you for saying that. Just to continue, this is a design-build project.
Yep.
So we started with our various departments we were working with the chief here, and we accomplished that. And currently, With the design build team, we've been making a lot of progress. I think that was a very good effort. One of the things that I want to emphasize is something we've done here that we're going to be instituting with our other project here with Public Works is owner direct purchase. We purchased $5.5 million worth of materials for that project under City of Port St. Lucie purchase orders. So we took delivery on those materials. We had them there ready for the contractors to construct so that those materials were not on back order, and that we also had a tax savings of over $380,000.
Yes, that is
So-
so important.
Yeah.
I know that we do that over at the fire district as well, and to have those ODP savings is really great.
So the next slide, just to show the elevation there at the front entrance. The last presentation I did was a concept drawing, so here's the real thing. Okay, moving on to the Public Works project. We've been working with the design architect and their engineering team to get this accomplished. They delivered their final design package last week, just a little bit ahead of time, and we're planning on bidding this in June and for award prior to that June date. And we're looking at a 18-month timeline to construct this. So we're looking forward to handling that in the same manner with those clauses that I mentioned that are a huge benefit to the city.
Awesome.
Okay, the City Hall interior improvements and added parking project. We're indicating 100% completion there, but essentially there's some punch list items remaining. We're very close to opening the front entrance. We've got some minor things that we're doing there. We've got a separate contract for landscape restorations. We've got the plantings in. We're being a little bit delayed on the sod because of the freeze that we had a couple of weeks ago. So we're going to be doing some excavation of the sod ears, getting that ready. So when the sod fields are ready to cut, we'll be ready to place that sod and get everything cleaned up. It's been a little challenge with all of the various site locations for the added parking, but I think it really adds to the issues that we were having, or adds to providing a mitigation to the parking issues we were having around the building. So I just wanted to mention that. The next major lift is our City Hall expansion project and our parking garage design efforts. Currently, our architectural engineering design team delivered their draft programming package to us. We're reviewing that internally. A big component of that was the space allocations and reallocations. So we're continuing to work to solve that. It's a moving target because of the departments that are going to be moving over to the Peacock and other things that we're doing within the complex. So our strategy is to look out 20 years so that these departments are settled for that time and provide the future parking for those departments and the space for their offices. So we're looking at that design effort to be completed in about a year from now. What we have to do is we have to meet with the council, go over our conceptual plans, reviews, and pull all that together and come up with a path moving forward on both the expansion of the building and the additional parking garage that we're analyzing right now. And the last of the 5 projects is our Mid-Florida Event Center parking garage. Okay, this project's been a long coming project since I've been with the city. We started our construction last June. with the repairs with Suffolk Construction. They have been working diligently with the city to take care of the issues at the parking garage and the main building. We have some structural repairs that we want to make sure that we're resolving for now and for the future. And with the United Soccer League moving in, we're going to be accelerating those repairs within the parking garage so that we can be ready for that time when they come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Roger?
I'd like to make some comments, but go ahead. I think David wants to go first. I can't see.
Anyone else? No? Go ahead.
Just want to make sure I can't see down that way. So first of all, I just want to thank you for the presentation, but Roger, I really want to talk about the great work you're doing.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your innovation in regards to what you just said as far as funding and how we're going to pay for materials, for example, in the Public Works building. Path of easiest direction is put an RFP out, hire a contractor, let them purchase the materials, and then that's all we just got to do is monitor the progress. The fact that you took it a step above and beyond, I think, is commended. As the city manager looks for a conservative fiscal responsibility, which we already do, but looks to further that, I would love to hear more stories from the staff, which I'm sure Roger is doing it. I'm sure others are doing it as well. But I love to hear that budget season too, is those innovative stories of how we funded things to keep costs down for the residents, because we need to tell that story. Because I know it's happening every day in City Hall. I just don't think it's getting to the council, so we're not able to provide that feedback of all the hard work you do behind the scenes. In addition to that, I have seen buildings go under construction and renovation. I've had to visit those buildings, and by far, I believe that the seamlessness of the construction process under your leadership has been incredible. I've walked into City Hall and never once felt for a second that something wasn't accessible, that I couldn't, that looked disheveled. I mean, even though we were under construction, and you could obviously see that, it was not messy construction, there was no dust. I mean, everything was thought to a T. And then finally, your project management has been exceptional. I can't tell you how many times I've been to City Hall and things are running around, and I don't have to do much but turn around and say, oh, there's Roger. Your hands-on approach and going above and beyond has been incredible. So I just want to thank you for your leadership, and I want to thank you for your application and your seriousness in these situations, because these are big changes the city needs to make to further itself, but it does come under scrutiny because the residents do see, City Hall, and they're like, well, do you really have to improve it? We're able to not only show that we're improving it, we're doing it fiscally responsible, and we're doing it in a timely manner, in an organized manner, and that's under what you've done, so thank you very much.
And thank you. I just want to take a moment to thank City Manager, Chief Assistant City Manager. I couldn't have done it without them.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Just Mayor, to the Vice Mayor's point about direct purchase, we've been doing this for years, but I don't think we've done a very good job of really promoting that we've been doing that. For example, the water and sewer process that we went through, all the pipe was actually pre-purchased by the city, all of that. A lot of major generators, a lot of pipe for our well fields, we've done ourselves. So really, we need to do a better job of promoting and really showing what the savings are. So we'll go ahead and take note of that and make sure that we report that on a regular basis.
Great. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we'll hear from about our utility project updates. Is that Mr. Matiagic? Or someone else? Oh,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yep, we got John Easton,
Mr.
Assistant
Easton.
Director, coming up,
All right, John.
provide an update on all the work he's been doing.
Good afternoon.
And the team.
Afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor,
John.
City Council.
Lower it down. There you go.
Afternoon. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, City Manager. Yes, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you an update on all the hard work that staff has been doing on these, just a few of our capital improvement projects. Without staff, this work, there's no way that could get done. So like to start off with the utility work that we're working on with other departments or agencies, which is all the roadway projects. Just going to skip over the public works portions of it since you've kind of already had a update on those and go straight to the Florida Department of Transportation projects. So I'll skip down to the third, Port St. Lucie Boulevard from Darwin to Alcatere. The utility portion of that work has been completed. Moving on to the Port St. Lucie Boulevard from Parr to Becker. That project is currently under construction. The utility portion is roughly 30% complete and moving on. The next phase for the Port St. Lucie Boulevard is from Parr to Becker, which is currently under design. It's finally starting to move forward a little bit faster now. We're at roughly 60% with the construction time is, at this point, is estimated to be around 2027. Jumping up to Midway Road, that's also a DOT portion of the project. From Selvets to Jenkins, all the water main for that project has been relocated and now is in service. There is a few minor punch list items that still need to be done, but we are continuing to move forward. Midway Road, the next phase is Jenkins to Glades Cutoff. That is currently under design as well. We're at roughly 90% design on the utility portion. And that one is also expected to start breaking ground in 2027 as well, is what we're hearing. The final two projects are also public works projects, so I'll go ahead and skip those. To date, the utility has spent approximately $27 million on the construction for these roadway projects.
Madam Mayor, just to highlight here, I think this is a great point where in the past, you used to see Public Works complete a road project, and next thing you know, you have the utilities or even their stormwater division go ahead and cut the road. So, but this is kind of what you see where all the departments are working together to accomplish a goal where you have a finished product when you're finished. I'm not only that, I'm sure the utilities also doing upsizing some of the pipes. For example, back when the utility was put in place, the water and sewer, they were not designed for the ultimate build out of that pipe. So you may see a pipe that goes from a 12-inch to a 16-inch to a 24-inch, and that's where you're taking advantage of that, where you're completing the project, it's under construction, and you only have to go back there one time instead of going to that location multiple times. Thank you.
And to
Thank
your
you.
point, it does save the utilities money because now we're not having to spend for restoration or MOT or any of those extra items that would have been done if we did a separate project. The next project is the McCarty Ranch Water Quality Restoration Area 7. This project is currently under design. We've went through several of the pre-design phases of the main being the conveyance of the water from the C-23 up to the proposed 7A site. Design is, we're around 60% with the 90% expected to come in on the next month. The Primeville Deep Injection Well number 2. This is a deep injection well that we're installing at our Primeville Water Treatment Plant to help dispose of the concentrate from our water plant. I do like to highlight on this project that originally it came in a lot higher than what we were able to negotiate. It's a $15 million project, but through the collaboration of the contractor, our staff, and procurement, we were able to lower that price significantly by allowing the contractor to have additional time. We are finding with these types of projects, there's only a couple, less than a handful of drillers that can do this work. So anytime we can work something out to get a little bit of a better deal, we did. I believe we saved $4 million on just by allowing him additional time. Construction-wise, all the casing has been installed. The contractor is currently cementing the last casing. The 22-inch is being cemented into roughly 3,300 feet. Once the cementing process is done, they'll begin installing the liner, which is a fiberglass reinforced plastic liner. Once that goes in, we'll begin the testing phase of the well that has to meet all the Florida Department of Environmental Protection's requirements. Once that's been accepted, the well driller will be leaving the site, and we have a separate contractor coming in to do the above-ground work, which includes piping and electrical. That was another savings that we were able to cut out of his contract. He wanted to come in, drill the well, and leave. So we were able to reduce that cost significantly just by having a separate contractor come in and do the work. RO well F19. This is the construction of an additional well for our JEA water treatment plant. The proposed additional well is to help address some of the concerns we're seeing with some of our existing wells for that plant, as far as water quality and lower flows that we're seeing. This project is pretty much completed. The construction has completed. We've done the startup on it. We're working on the final paperwork that needs to be submitted to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection in order to turn the well over. We have some minor punch list items, and then this work should be done. We're hoping to have it up and running by next month. Western Raw Water Main. This is a water main that we're installing from the west to convey raw water from our proposed wells that are going to be west of the I-95 corridor over to our JEA water treatment facility. Again, to help with the water quality and flows that we are seeing. We want to make sure we have enough backup wells just in case. This is to install roughly 14,000 linear feet. To date, we've installed about 12,000 linear feet. So the remaining work is we still have to get across the I-95 corridor. So staff is currently working with the DOT along with our designer to get that permitted and approved so we can move forward with that. And then we have a couple more areas that we have to do within the James E. Anderson water treatment plant itself. The Becker Road water main improvements. This included both the installation of low pressure mains and water main along Becker Road within the corridor between the I-95 corridor and the turnpike to accommodate the additional houses that are being built along Becker Road. When this was really initially installed, there was some missing legs throughout that, so this is taking care of those missing legs. This project was also funded by the American Rescue Plan Act, so all this is being paid for through that funding. This project is pretty much done. All the mains are in. The rework on the road, reconstruction of the roadway is done. We're just waiting on the required time to do the striping. So once that's done, I'm hoping we'll have that done within the next couple of weeks, and this project will be closed out. The Darwin and Becker parallel force main. This project is a force main that needs to be installed along Becker Road to our Westport wastewater treatment plant to help accommodate for all the new developments that are going on Becker Road east of the turnpike. The existing main, as was brought up before, did not have the capacity to handle the build out, so this main will help with that capacity in future years. Currently, we are around 45% of the design. We're currently coordinating with both the Turnpike Authority and the Florida Department of Transportation on getting the permitting across the turnpike. And then hopefully we'll continue that and get this project moving on.
So I have a question. So for all the future development that's going to happen, especially on the developer side, are we making them put in the biggest size pipe possible, and so we don't have to deal with this later on and changing out pipes like 10 years from now?
You're referring to the Southwest Annexation area? Yes, that is correct, Madam Mayor. And they're required to install all the pipe. I think with our responsibility, which we bonded probably 15, 20 years ago, was from the major pump station to the wastewater plant. But anything behind that is the responsibility of the developer, the lift station, their gravity system. I think that's another important part, is that it will be all gravity system instead of the low pressure system that we have in the old part of the city.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, Southport 24-inch sewer force main. This is a project that is to divert flow from our Westport wastewater treatment plant over to our Glaze wastewater treatment plant through a basically 6.5 miles of 24-inch force main. Basically, the project is complete. We've just waiting on the final letter of acceptance from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and we do have some final paperwork that has to be done because we did receive a grant on this as well, so they're working on the final reimbursement for that as well. Replacement of lift station NP13. So this is to replace an existing lift station on Selvets. Finally. I know you drive that way every day.
It's
Anyway.
only taken 10 years.
It is. So it's one that's has met its end of life and needed to be replaced, along with we needed some extra capacity. We're starting to see that build out growth, and we needed to upsize the pumps. And in doing so, we went ahead and did a complete rehab on it. So the new lift station is now in the ground. The panels and all electrical gear are there. We're expecting to have the startup done at the end of this month, and then we'll start the testing procedure. We usually let it run for several weeks just to make sure we get all the glitches out, if there is any, and then we'll begin the demo of the existing station, and then we have restoration right after that. Primeville Water Treatment Plant generator replacement. This is to replace an existing generator at our Primeville lime softening plant. We did receive funding for this as well. The major delay on this project is ordering the materials, the generator and all the electrical gear that came with it. You've already kind of brought up owner direct purchase. The generator we purchased ahead of time to get it here when the contractor finally come on board. So we're expecting to have the contractor mobilize by the next month and begin the construction. It should be a quick turnover. Hopefully we'll be done by the May of this year. McCarty Ranch water main. So this project involved the installation of water main out at the McCarty Ranch to help serve the RV and the primitive campsites. This project, all the materials purchased through the American Rescue Plan Act as well. This project is complete and has been turned over and is in service as of this presentation.
Great, because Dave wants to go camping out there, don't you, Dave?
You got water now. So. The Westport Wastewater Treatment Plant nutrient reduction improvements. This is a multi-year, multi-phase project. Total construction cost is estimated to be $87 million when we're complete. We did receive approximately $35 million in grant funding for this project as well. We're currently working on the first phase, which would be able to meet the Florida Environmental Protection Agency's requirements for effluent, which is the 10 milligrams a liter of total nitrogen and 6 milligrams a liter of total phosphorus. Big challenge on this, of course, is doing all these modifications on an existing facility as it's in operation. So it takes a little bit more time that we would like, but we have to do it in phases so we don't mess up the current operations. Mm-hmm. The next phase is to install a denitrification filter, which will help us achieve the advanced waste treatment levels, which is a total nitrogen of 3 and a total phosphorus of 1. That project has already been awarded for us to GMP, so we're moving forward with that phase as well. Contractor is currently working with us to issue the POs as again owner direct purchase of all the long lead items for car, the electrical gear, pumps, and the filter itself. This was another one that all the first phase we did do owner direct purchase as well, and the savings that we received there is paying for the materials on the next phase. So that's kind of, I don't have the total numbers, but that's kind of how we're seeing these large savings.
Great.
The final phase of this project includes the construction of 2 reject tanks that are also needed to meet the Florida Department of Environmental Protection's requirements on us for anything that's going down our deep injection well from here on out. We currently received the 90% plans for that. Staff and our CMAR is also reviewing those and hopefully have comments back and to them shortly. Now we get into our new project. So Rangeline Road and Glades future injection wells. So this involves 2 injection wells for our future water treatment facility that are going to be on Discover Way, and 1 injection well at our Glades treatment plant for disposal. We did select to bid these 2 projects separately, hoping to get more bids. Again, this is a project that there's only a few drillers that can do the work, so we're hoping to get as many as we can. The Glades injection well has already been bid. We only did receive 1 bidder, so we're in the middle of negotiating to see if we can bring that cost down a little bit through negotiations.
Madam Mayor, I think this is a good example of what we call a really good planning. If you think about this Rangeline water treatment plant, this started about 20 years ago by first acquiring the well sites, locations for this plant. And through the whole process, now you get into the well fields, you get into the raw water mains going into that. So when people talk about, well, you're going to be running out of capacity, do you guys have enough capacity? Well, this has been in the plans for many years, and this is just an example of that. You don't just design, build a project in 5 years. This is a long road to get to this point.
And if I may, Mr. City Manager and Madam Mayor, to Jesus' point, he spoke about consumptive use permit earlier today. These future wells were already permitted through DEP many years ago. So that's one hurdle that, again, we've been planning for this for many years, and now the construction and design elements there, but we already have the right to withdraw those rates. And it's a big thing because a lot of people naturally are looking for water sources and water plants, across the state. So the fact that we had those permitted so many years ago, we've been planning for this, so we're moving forward with it.
Yeah, and often when we talk about our utility, we talk about how we plan 50 to 100 years out in the future, and what we're describing here and what we're seeing here with all the projects is exactly what we've been doing, and it's exactly what we're going to continue to do in the future, because one of our top priorities is making sure we have water for our residents for hundreds of years to come. So thank you for that.
They kind of jumped ahead on me, but so yeah, the next slide is the design build for the 9 Floridan wells and raw water main. Again, because of the forward thinking, getting the permits, everything set, we were able to come in with this design build contractor. We're at 50% design on the wells, but we're already drilling the first well because the permit was already there. So we didn't have to go back and do a permit mod to address that, which takes several months to get through. So that's some of the forward thinking that we've done. So again, 3 of the wells for this project is to help serve the JEA facility, and then the other 6 will be serving the new water treatment facility as well. Again, some of the casing pit piping has already been installed. They're already drilling the first well. We're expecting to have a second drill rig on site in the next couple of months, so we can actually drill 2 wells simultaneously to speed up the process. We're also working on the raw water main that will be going along Discovery Way as well, and that's roughly 30% complete. So the next one is the Rangeline Road Water Treatment Facility. So this one's another multi-year, multi-phase project that is going to be probably extended out till 2029. This one has already been posted out. We've actually selected design build team. We're actually in negotiations right now for the scope and the first guaranteed max price for this project. We're hoping to have, if everything goes well, we're hoping to start the design process in April, again, with the completion date of 2029. And last but not least, the Glades Wastewater Treatment Plant Facility expansion. So this one is just in the planning stage. We are working with procurement to bring on an owner's rep to help us through the bidding process for the design build. It gets a little more complicated when you get into these plants, so we wanted somebody that had some guidance to help us move through this process. So we're in the process of getting them. We're hoping to have that to them in the next 30 days. Once that's been awarded, we're hoping to have the progressive design build package out to procurement by October of this year, so we can move forward with the design and construction.
Madam Mayor, just on these projects here, one of the things we're trying to do early on is do the design, and then when we get to construction, then go out there and bond. So that's why we're kind of pushing the bonding a little bit further down
Right.
before we can get the design done.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Shannon?
Yes.
I just wanted to ask Ms. Parmalee a question. So, hey, SB 1014, and do we have a status in regards to the House and the Senate? And has it passed both House and Senate?
I believe it did pass the Senate. We've been working with our lobbyist team, and so I'll get you that exact update. But I think we've, really working on amendments and trying to make the bill more palatable. It's kind of where the league is at, but I will get you the exact update.
Could you briefly, because I want to make sure, I don't want to speak just to myself, I want to make sure that in case the council hasn't been made aware of this bill, and Shannon brought up a minute ago too, how we're planning ahead. I think it's important that we just let everyone know, what is this bill and why are we fighting it?
Absolutely. And we did reach out to both Senator Grahl and Senator Harrell because it was heard in rules as well. So I'm just going to give you the exact, and they did file an amendment. It's related to municipal utility. It's outside of the municipal limits, and it really limits our ability to charge appropriately and be able to safeguard the utility. So we've been working with the Utility Systems Department, passing along feedback from them on our concerns regarding the bill. We really need to be able to negotiate and have that independent authority. Senator Mayfield has been very receptive to amendments to the bill, which we appreciate, but we still remain opposed to the bill along with the League of Cities because it really limits our authority.
And it also, does it still have the language in it that essentially forces connections if capacity is available?
Correct, and that's where some of the challenges are, and that's where I'm going to confirm that the latest, because we've been in the workshop to get the exact language on that, but it is the forced connection issue. It is the just limiting, and I know that Mr. Matiadrek has analyzed that with his team. Mr. Matiadrek, do you have further feedback on the bill?
No, it's similar. Yes, it does still include the language that would put the city have an obligation where a resident or property owner outside of our jurisdiction or boundaries could come, and we would have a time frame to look at their requests and otherwise have to render a formal decision on whether or not we have available capacity. And so, again, I think to Kate's point, working with legislators on improving what's written, if it is still moving forward, we certainly have concerns on what impacts that may be. I think we are in a good situation as it relates to we've been planning for capacity for the needs of a growing city. However, what implications should this bill be passed as is, those haven't been contemplated to some extent, and what impacts those would have on our residents and our ratepayers to date. And that's more or less the concerns that we raise, and making sure we have that ability to make sure people, should they want to be served by us, that they're mitigating the impacts, and that otherwise existing ratepayers or residents are not, others are benefiting off of the investments that they have made.
Right, and if I would also add that I think what we're seeing is some legislation that we really have a lot of challenges with passing. And I think it's like we're having glitch bills the following session that fixes the unintended consequences, that we're sharing the consequences early on. Our entire legislative team has been expressing that to our legislators but there's a lot of support for this, and it is a challenging bill to overcome right now.
I have found that in this process, it has been extremely successful having staff speak directly to the legislator versus even sometimes us. If this bill continues to move or comes back next year, I really think Mr. City Manager Kevin would probably benefit going to Tally or meeting with a rep when they're in town, and to the senator, just because this would be so damaging, Madam Mayor, to the city. We're pre-planning our capacity, we're bonding our capacity, and if there's not language in these bills that essentially says if you already have projected growth, entitled growth, we have entitled growth by ordinance essentially, that we can hold that capacity for ourselves. It scares me to think that someone would be able to come in and take our capacity that's not obviously investing in it, but more importantly, that we're holding for future development, and we'll have to continue to bond into oblivion at that point in time. So that's been my concern.
It's another example of those unfunded mandates that come down and cause us to have to charge more, and it continues to be very frustrating, for sure.
Absolutely. Mayor, and I do have an update. Thank you, Sabrina McLeod, who provided me the latest. Senate Bill 1014 passed 3 Senate committees. It's passed its required committees. The comparison bill, House Bill 1075, is in its 3rd committee, which is the House Commerce Committee, but is not yet agended. So right now, we're playing the battle of the clock, right? The clock is running out. Committees are going to stop meeting. So that's one benefit we have in our favor, is that it's difficult to get through all the committees.
Yeah, and I know our lobbyists will be on it. I think it already passed the Senate floor too. I thought I read that. I could be wrong, but you could ask Sabrina. And then my fear is it being in the last committee as they go into budget negotiations. This could be one of those things that ends up getting negotiated, and it happens extremely quickly. And then the question then becomes is, how detrimental is this to the city of Port St. Lucie? And then do we work with the governor's office to ask to veto at that point in time? Because that would be our only stop.
Right.
Absolutely. We'll work with all levels and continue to communicate. I mean, all of the delegation has been communicated with, and we'll continue to fight that every level. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
So I'd like to go back to number 13. So y'all know who I'm married to, right? And
You looking at this one?
yeah, I think this one I had first had discussions 10 years ago. And it was there was always a generator out there, yada. And the start date was March of 25 and the end date of May of 26. I could ask a rhetorical question of, is that normal? And I already know the answer is a lot less than that.
Well, it comes down to materials. So usually the electrical panels are running 10 to 11 months just to get the electrical panels for these.
That long?
These projects. I'm having the same
Wow,
problem.
we may
in
want to
ours,
change vendors.
Along with, yeah, and then we are having some issues with getting the actual manholes or structures for this size. That was another
Oh,
delay.
yeah, along with everybody.
Yeah. So that's the challenge, is the materials.
All right,
getting that.
I'm just
And we
glad that it's
have-
almost going, and I'm going to tie a yellow ribbon around it as soon as it, gets kicked in, because I've been, like you said, I've been passing by it for 10 years now. I
And I
wanted
think
to,
that's some of what we've been talking about, is maybe we can pre-purchase some of these panels to have them ready to go. We just got to make sure the pumps are sized correctly before we do that. So that's the
Right.
challenge on our side. But, yeah, if we could order some of these ahead of time and have them ready to go, it would shorten that time frame.
I was going to
and
say, after the pump
There
and
was some
panel
also
delivery.
some FP&L issues as well, but,
Yeah, that seems to be a common denominator with a lot of the jobs also. The other thing, you had mentioned Midway Road, Jenkins to Glades Cutoff.
yes, ma'am.
And I know it's in the plans for the Turnpike. So the Turnpike Enterprise / DOT, in their infinite wisdom, has decided that they're only going to do a south off and a south on, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, being that this is like an evacuation route and we have nowhere to get on and go north. And in case of evacuation, you do not want to go south. I know that there were some issues with right-of-way purchase easements with the company to the north, and then the other one, of course, is us and the fire district, if I'm not mistaken. Has there been any movement on that? Because I think it's totally useless to do a south on, south off, when we could do it all at the same time and save a lot of money and have an evacuation. I mean, has it come any closer, or Is this really like a DOT Turnpike Enterprise?
Well, that is a DOT Turnpike Enterprise. I have not heard any updates on the ramps for the northbound traffic. I know we are finalizing and drafting an MOA for the right-of-way dedication that we need to provide to them, where they're going to be providing the new logo on the noise wall adjacent to the park, as well as on the MSE walls for the bridge, and then also helping out with the drainage concerns that the fire district has. So that MOA, I believe, the draft just came in last week, and we're reviewing it and going to keep moving it forward. But I will ask the DOT and Turnpike project team for a status update on the northbound ramps.
I would appreciate that, and I'm sure there's utilities that are there that have to be
Either way,
taken care of with the road construction that's going to continue from Jenkins to Glades Cutoff.
Yeah, with the expansion of the bridge, we will have to rebore.
Yeah, I always
the water main.
wondered about that. You widen the roads and you don't do the bridge first. But you widen the roads and then you go down to 2 lanes and go over the bridge. It just makes no sense. But then again, I'm not a traffic engineer and don't want to be one.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, thank you so much. We're going to take a break now, and we're going to come back in a little while. Thanks. Okay, we're back from break. We're going to continue on with Parks and Rec. Hi, Brad.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor. Boy, that's loud. Yes, for the record, Brad Keene, Director of Parks and Recreation. Good afternoon to the mayor, city council, city manager, and staff, and for the viewing public. It's indeed an honor to stand before you this afternoon and introduce you to Mr. Zach Sherman, who will present our facilities update. We've got a multitude of projects out there that you will see are in various stages of construction as well as planning, but it is somewhat bittersweet, and I have to mention this. Previously, I would have introduced Zach as our Executive Project Manager for Parks and Recreation. However, I am honored to announce that, or present today, introduce him as the new Facilities Maintenance Director for the City of Port St. Lucie. Now, having said that, like I said, it's a little bittersweet for Parks and Recreation, but I am assured, with all the assurances that are out there, that Zach is going to continue to administer and oversee our CIP projects, which he has done just an outstanding job to date. So we look forward to our continued relationship and interaction with Zach. So without any further ado, I'll turn it over to Zach.
Okay.
Thank you, Brad.
Congratulations, Zach.
Thank you, I appreciate it, and thank you, Councilwoman Morgan. You didn't get my tie, so.
You better take it off right after. You know what's going to happen to it.
All right. All right, so good afternoon, Council, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, Mr. City Manager, city staff and residents. So Zach Sherman. Earlier today, we heard a charcuterie of projects from Super Tom Salvador. For me, you'll get a smorgasbord.
Ooh, I like this.
Also, earlier today, it was mentioned that the city's this year is going to complete a bunch of high-profile projects, and certainly Parks and Rec has been at the forefront of that. Let's see, we'll get the right button going here. And as also was alluded to earlier, Tradition Regional Park is nearing its end. We're about 85% through. If you've been past the park lately, of course, the ball fields, which also accommodates softball, baseball, and soccer, they've been done for a while. We are putting the walkways into the interior of the quad. We're leaving one aisleway open so that we can construct the restroom. The second entrance, which is right between Tradition Prep and the ball fields, is the work's being done on that. You may have seen the maintenance building walls get erected and the roof. The BMX facility, the entire track is formed, and they poured quite a bit of concrete already, including sidewalk. That track itself is anticipated to be complete by the end of February, you know, minus the cool-looking sports surface, the blue and the St. Lucie logos, and probably some railing for the start hill. They're confident that all of the other features related to the track, like the kids' training facility and the fencing and the sidewalk, will be complete in March as well. The football field's been done for a little bit as well. Sidewalk is going in between that multipurpose football field and the BMX site. The 3 natural grass soccer fields have been waiting for the sod. And that's one of the challenges we've had lately with the park. Now, the sod is going to go down in March. That's good. The St. Augustine grass for the whole site's going to also go down in March, but as you know, the lake levels have been sufficiently low. We got a workaround, and those are being recharged, and it'll take a little bit to regrade those 3 natural grass soccer fields, water them, get the sod down. It's rolled sod. Should be going in by March 12th. St. Augustine grass will shortly follow. The site is energized, so we can kick our irrigation pump on. The only negative related to the warranty, obviously, of these fields and the whole site work is that when that sod goes down, there is a 3-month projected grow-in. So meaning, although the work will be complete and we can expect it, see if there's any punch list items, it'll be difficult to have somebody play on it for about 3 months. The other challenge we've been faced with at the park, which looks like we're getting through it, is getting those 3 restroom/concession buildings constructed. We did get approval from the building department. They've been a really big help for the baseball quad restroom and the soccer field restroom. Those are approved. They're both with fire. The baseball quad restroom, that one we should be getting approval for any day now. So it's been with fire a couple weeks. So those still need to be constructed. Madame A will be constructing those 2 buildings, the baseball and the soccer themselves, self-performing. And of course, we already have a subcontractor under Mike McIntyre for the BMX restroom. For the BMX restroom, we're just finalizing the floor plan, getting the design to 100%. We have to go through compliance on those plans, show our grease interceptor on the civil plans, get that stamped, and get that through permitting. All the other departments have been very helpful in helping us move all these things forward. They know a 3rd restroom set is coming, but everyone's been very good. This was taken at the beginning of February. If you were to go out there right now, they have a lot more work done. Like I said, they're expecting to have this thing complete, minus the cool-looking sports surface of the track and some of the start hill railings and things like that. So they're really cooking out there, Mike McIntyre's crew. And this, of course, is what it will look like when it's all completed. Moving on to Torino. So we say we're at 90% right now, and that's because I am including the process of getting our 100% construction plans reviewed and also going through building compliance. Technically, as of today, they're resubmitting, or they are submitting for the first time, our 100% construction plans. So those will get reviewed. Once we get those stamped, we'll go through compliance. The goal would be to make sure we're through compliance, have any comments addressed. Around the same time, we take Burkhart's contract back to council to amend it and encumber all of the construction money for this project. We're trying very hard to get this construction started in April, to hold at least our pre-con meeting and get going, get our silt fence installed and all of those types of preliminary things. According to the schedule, it was May to have the actual construction start, but we're really pushing for April to get this pre-con going. I noted on there, and I think this went before council a little bit ago, the county's chipping in an extra $1 million, so their contribution is $5 million total. And so as long as we start in May, we'll be able to expend those ARPA dollars and get this park open sometime in the fall of 2027. So this is really exciting. That's our conceptual site plan that you've seen. Moving on to Stars and Stripes, this park has largely been completed coming into the new year 2026. But in compiling our punch list, walking through the park, and in working with other departments, namely Public Works, we identified that we needed additional drainage behind all the curbs in the park, and we had to redo the parking lot. While we were in discussions with Madam A to work that out and get their plans approved, all of the FPL parking lot lights were installed, so that's good, and our restroom was installed as well. We're still working on a few details related to the restrooms, or the restroom. We're installing the grinder, which should be done shortly. We had a final meeting with utilities today about that, just to make sure everything goes smoothly with the contractors. Now, when Madam A started the drainage project and milling and resurfacing this parking lot again, they projected it would be about a 6-week project. I believe they're 2 weeks into it, so it's just kind of a general time frame. And of course, we then, and as they're finishing that up, they will be addressing any outstanding punch list items. There's a couple sidewalk-related things, paver-related items they got to fix, a few other small things as well. But again, just like tradition, we are nearing the end of this construction project as well. And when it's all said and done, it's going to be a very pretty, passive, relaxing, reflective park. OL Peacock, and I know at least one staff member, Keith Bradshaw, is very excited that we get this one done so he can go fishing again. So he's been the #1 resident calling me to make sure that we get this construction moving as fast as possible. But we're moving at a good clip. The contractor, although the contract goes through July, I believe, the contractor has committed to completing all elements related to the FERDAP grant by April 1st. The elements related to the FERDAP grant, we have a $200,000 grant, include the Figure 8 trail that is going, Figure 8 concrete trail that's being installed, the grassy areas and landscaped areas in and around the trail, 2 pavilions, the playground, and the on-street parking. So they've committed to having all of that done by April 1st so that we can close that grant out April 30th. Closing that grant out is going to be a heavy lift for staff, but we've committed, if we have to work weekends, to compile all that paperwork, take it to the clerk's office, and get everything approved to send into the state. So that's our goal. We're on track right now to complete this. We're working with FPL right now on undergrounding all of the overhead electrical and making sure that the restroom, which we're putting in as well, it's not technically part of this project, but it's in this fiscal year as a capital project, making sure that we got the power that we need for that restroom. The restroom's under design right now. Should be about 2 more weeks at least to finish design on that restroom. And then we'll be working with the engineer of record to do the design for the grinder and the calculations and all that so we can get that out to bid. And the goal would be to also have that restroom under construction while this is finishing up. And hopefully, if everything works out well time-wise, it would be ready the same time the rest of the park is ready. So, and although the majority of this park will be complete by the end of April, like I said, there will be some things that we'll be completing afterwards going into May and probably June. Wilderness, this one just got kicked off recently. This one's very exciting. 2.1 miles of 10-foot wide concrete multimodal trail. This is going to be a great connector in between the Saints Golf Course and Pioneer Park. This will make the area more walkable. A lot of people do use Cambridge to walk. I've seen them push their babies, walk their dogs. So this is going to be a great amenity for the residents that live there to be off the road, and it'll connect to Morningside. And it'll connect all the people all around Sandpiper if they want to walk all through there from the Saints or even down south a little more up to Pioneer Park, which traffic will increase once that restaurant comes on board. And this will be a great amenity when that restaurant comes on board. So in addition to the trail, we're getting new signage, wayfinding signage, a new park sign, benches for people to sit on, and then a restroom pavilion that will also be going into this project as well. This is an aggressive timeline as well. The contractor, who gave us a very excellent price for this project, has committed to completing the trail, which is part of an RTP grant, by August 1st, so that staff can close this thing out by August 22nd. $500,000 is on the line, and it's in their contract that they need to have that done by August 1st. And this is just conceptually showing different segments of the trail. we originally had it broken out by different colors because we didn't know what the bids would come in as, and we figured we split everything up into alternates just in case it was too high. That way we could pick and choose. Luckily, everything came in at our budget, so we can construct all segments of the trail.
That's great.
Port Preserve Trails at Pioneer Park. This one, we already got the ribbon cutting set for March 4th. I believe tomorrow staff should be able to go out there and take another walkthrough. They're really putting the finishing touches on it, and we have a meeting set up next Wednesday anyways to review all of the progress. And like I said, March 4th, 4 o'clock, ribbon cutting. There was a fine grant attached to this one as well, $400K. We're getting done about a month ahead of schedule, so this one's really awesome to complete this one. Another nice walking amenity after having a dinner at the Future Restaurant.
Yeah, we need an update on that, too. That's not for you, though.
Yeah, I was like, Jen will probably be doing that update. All I know is I want to eat there.
We all
very
do.
badly.
We're all anxiously waiting.
And so this is just circling the area where the Port Preserve trails are. There's 2 connections to the existing boardwalk in the river. There's a connection to the Pioneer Park parking lot. There's a connection to the grassy overflow area on the left-hand side. And then there's a entryway off the sidewalk from Westmoreland. So lots of different opportunities to access this preserve area. And as part of this project, it wasn't just the trails that we did here. We also did those seat walls at the Boardwalk Terrace and some curbing and fixed up the artificial turf at the Boardwalk Terrace so that previously there were some erosion issues. The scope as part of this contractor's work was to address all that, and they got that done already too. This is just showing it what it looks like on a map. I think it's about a half mile of different trails, mixture of concrete, stabilized, and then of course boardwalk. And it's really nice. The best section is if you enter off of Westmoreland, so that little orange piece that's connected to the sidewalk, and then come south, there's a really nice stretch of boardwalk through a wooded area. It's the prettiest spot in the whole preserve. The next 2 we completed. I don't think we were done the last winter workshop. So the boardwalk under the bridge is complete, as well as the Tom Hooper connection. And that would have been done a while ago, but FDOT had to do some work under there. So as soon as we were ready to connect that thing, they said, hold your horses. We'd like to see how this actually works with you disconnecting it. But they got in there, did their work. We finished it all up. So a lot of people are walking on it. I took my family out there a few times. It's pretty great. And it's great to get off and be able to walk somewhere to a restaurant like Lefty's or that whole Bridge Plaza, or when the restaurant comes. This is going to make the whole area more connected from the promenade all the way to the Saints. So this is awesome. Duck Court, we got kicked off on this one. This should be done by July. This is a smaller project, a little pocket park in a neighborhood, doing a little trail, little on-street parking, some landscaping, benches, pergolas. This is phase 2. The current state before construction, it was just a little nice scenic grassy area, so we're adding some amenities to finish this park off. Here's the rest of the, well, if the first part was the smorgasbord, this part might be the charcuterie. So those were all the major projects, the major construction projects, you know, between Tradition and Torino and all the other major construction. These ones are big. They're in the CIP, but they just don't rise. And last year, I don't know that we covered all these, but we didn't want to leave this off because staff is working very hard to complete all of these other projects on time in FY26, or at the very least, encumber all of the monies. Sportsman's, Port St. Lucie Elementary site, we acquired that site, and it's going out to bid to master plan the whole site, looking at the whole site holistically, not just saying Sportsman's West, we got this new site. How do we incorporate the new school site into the overarching campus? What should we do differently? How do we utilize the school? It's in, RISC already approved this, it's in legal review now, and then it'll go out to bid. Related to that, we had some money in the current budget for the Port St. Lucie elementary renovations. We're doing some smaller items out there, but we're moving that pot of money to FY27 because the master planning will inform us more of what we need to do with that site. So we're just moving that out. Community center roof, that's out to bid right now. I believe that comes due February 26th. Minsky Gym, it's also in the CIP for the interior wall repairs. CPZ, I believe today, will send us the final bid set that we can then put out to bid. The Winter Lakes Sports Lighting Project, that's in Fusion right now. We had some comments. We're addressing those comments. We're in the process of updating the site plan to show the light pole locations and any related information to the fixtures. Okamic Playground, that is under design with Compan. We've completed the Whispering Pine security and fiber optic upgrade. Lingate Park lighting is also getting improvements. We awarded the contract and we're going towards permitting right now. Riverland Park parking lot expansion, that is under design. Probably because we switched gears in what we were doing, and now we're putting the parking where one of the dog parks won, and we're reconfiguring the dog parks. We're probably 30% through that design now. And we're doing our best to get that design done and out to bid and try to encumber the money for the construction this fiscal year as well. Parks entrance sign rebranding. Each park has a entryway sign. It has the old branding. We'll be awarding a contract probably in early March to Don Bell Signs to redo all of the different panels of those entryway signs. The green space this year is the Whispering Pines Green Space. Staff applied for and was awarded a $25,000 grant to help with outreach. And I don't know if anybody went to the second outreach that we did where we had the goats. So the goats helped us devour some of the invasives that were out there. So the joke all week was that these goats were going to be prehistoric goats and totally wipe out the whole space, and there was just going to be a brown crater. But thankfully that didn't happen. They were good goats. They knew exactly not to touch the native, and they only touched the invasive.
That's awesome.
And Zach, everyone that participated got a goat getter button, right? Because they were goat getters.
Oh. Goat getter, yeah.
That's cute.
A few more projects. Paseo Park security camera upgrade. Purchase order's been open on that. Jessica Clinton drainage for baseball field, that's complete. We're developing or finalizing the scope of work for the McCarty Ranch Preserve campsite enhancements to add electric. This one's especially good, having this electric in light of the BMX facility that's going to open and knowing that there's going to be people in RVs who are going to want to come Friday night and stay for the weekend. Where are we going to put them? When these campsites expand, that's an opportunity for them to go there and rent there, and it's a short distance away as well.
Right.
Stars and Stripes restroom, like I said, it's all in place. We had the final meeting today with utilities. We're going to get that grinder installed. That'll be up and running shortly. OL Peacock restroom, that's in design. Like I said, probably 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks max, we'll have that design complete. Rivergate boat ramp parking, that's in the site plan review process right now. We got some comments. We addressed the comments. We got a couple more back. As soon as we address those, we can go through compliance and then get that out to bid to basically mill and resurface the parking lot and add some drainage enhancements. C24 security cameras, we got a fine grant for that. Purchase order has been opened. Sportsman's Park security camera upgrade. We're value engineering the scope right now, getting a little cost savings, but we're still anticipated to complete that this year. And keep in mind, these are all FY26 or earlier CIP projects. We're really completing the inventory of projects that were outstanding this year or getting them encumbered. So this is a big accomplishment from the department. And lastly, I just wanted to point out, in addition to doing those projects, staff and including other departments, Martha and Nikki, we've been applying for grants. We applied for a $785,000 matching grant, land and water, from McChesney. The Rosser Lakes property, that's the photo you see here. We applied for a $1.5 million grant. Basically, it reimburses us for some of the money that we expended in acquiring this property. And Nikki put together this conceptual plan here that we could use the money on, doing a mile worth of trail, pavilions, maybe a little fishing pier, some stabilized parking, and other small amenities that would still keep the preserved natural feel, of the area. Nothing too overwhelming. We're in the process of applying for an RTP grant for Torino. This would bring back some of the items that got value engineered out of phase one. So another trail loop, a trail that connected to the future kayak launch, maybe something along the canal, or I know in one of the old concepts there was a connection from phase one across the canal to phase two. So I was asking Kimley Horn, I'm like, hey, do you think we could get this grant and spend $700,000 on the trail that we value engineered out? Then we started brainstorming, and we thought, oh, if we had that pedestrian bridge across there, that'll eat that money up real fast. So we're applying for that. We applied for, we're finalizing our grant for the Bridge Plaza out parcel. So the CRA is acquiring that little parking lot in front of, I think it's Pizza Hut there, which provides a good connection to our boardwalk. So that'll be a $325,000 matching grant. We can redo the parking lot, do some landscaping, add some shade, seating, and also add a restroom. And the last one on this list is a CDBG grant of $250,000 for the River Place Park Inclusive Playground. I think we're just waiting for material delivery, really, and we can get reimbursed for that grant. So that's parks, and then moving on to the Saints Golf Course. The first two here we discussed last year. They weren't totally completed, but they've been 100% completed now. This is the new structure for the irrigation pumps and the fertigation system. That's been completed as of November 2025. And this second one we talked about at the last workshop as well has been 100% completed. And that's that subsurface drainage installation in certain key areas. That was completed in November. And then this was one of the ones that had a 4-year phased approach to it, and that was redoing the cart paths and adding new connections as well. Two of them have been completed. The third one's projected to start shortly in June, and then the last phase would be June 2027. And this one here is 10% through. This is rebuild and refurbish existing course bunkers. I believe 7 have already been completed in 2025. This includes rebuilding the drainage, putting new sod in. We're going to start more this summer in 2026. And that picture there, that shows what happens to some of the older bunkers when it rains. It's just not playable. And the 7 that were done so far, they're all good. Rains, they're all playable. And lastly, this is one that the project team is working with Keith on. So in the lower left-hand corner, you got this little fenced-in yard area. That has all been cleared out right now, and that's going to be a building for the mechanics so that they can work on the golf courts or any type of golf course-related equipment, the mowers and anything like that. And then the area that has the roof on it, that roof structure will be replaced to have more of an open yard area for storage. And so we're just working through. We had to do a new site plan for the entire golf course, and we're just working through the rest of that design for that. And so I believe that's it. If anyone has any questions on any of that stuff, or if anyone has any more detailed questions about golf for Keith.
We have many, many projects in the hopper, that's for sure. And it absolutely demonstrates just overall, not just with parks, that just how much we are working on. And I hope that we have lots of residents watching this because today's been all about infrastructure so far, right? And so you forget, right? Everyone's working on different things, and we kind of forget, oh, what about this? What about this? But to bring it all together and to see just how much we are working on is a great reminder, and it's why we do our workshops like this. So just incredible amount of work happening, absolutely. So, I have one question about parks, though. Cameras in parks. Where are we deficient in terms of not having cameras in certain parks? And do we have a plan, or are we going to work on a plan to make sure that we have that connectivity all around, especially as it relates to working on our real-time operations center, where we can have the ability to look at everything and see what's going on? So what does that look like?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Yes, there is a plan. Mike Kendrick is working with both IT and as well as our various camera providers. The vast majority, all of our community parks have cameras. You know, some of the camera systems are older. Those are actually on schedule to be replaced. And then the other parks that are in need of camera coverage, we are working on a plan to bring those in the CIP schedule over the next few years.
Anyone else have questions or comments?
I do.
Go ahead.
First of all, just wanted to thank you for the presentation, Zach, and I know Parks is sad to lose you. I'm kind of sad seeing you go from Parks because I think you do a great job, but congratulations.
too.
I know. Congratulations on your new position.
Poor Parks.
But at least he's not leaving us altogether. And,
That's right.
And I'm sure Parks will pull them and steal them when they need them, right, Mr. City Manager, here and there. So the Saints, you know, as we continue this discussion of conservative and fiscal responsible government, it's really important. I'm not going to get ahead of the presentation tomorrow. I'm not stealing the thunder of the Saints, but I do know that from my conversations, they're either already paying for themselves or very close to paying completely 100% for themselves, meaning their budget is about net zero. And the goal too in the future is to, if there's any overage in the budget, that would get to be put into a fund essentially to be prepared to deal with some of these construction projects. And so, you know, there's not a lot of parks, and it's very difficult for parks to obviously pay for themselves because they don't really have a way to generate revenue. Mm-hmm. This particular property is part of our parks, and does generate revenue. And I would probably say it's really hard for any golf course in the U.S. say that it's actually breaking even at this point, especially the municipal ones. So it's a huge achievement, and I want to make sure I noted that because if people see projects like, oh, they're doing that at the golf course. The other thing was, Council, I do think we need to really have a good discussion with staff on the parking for the port and understanding what that's going to look like in the future. I've had many residents ask me and share their concerns. We've had discussions, obviously, with staff, and it's come up, but we really still haven't laid out concrete plans, at least it hasn't been discussed with us, of what the anticipated levels of parking are going to be and how we're going to manage that. And I think we need to do that. You know, I think it was probably harder before because we didn't have an idea of, we had the concept that Gurov provided and P3 provided, which was we want to do this many vignettes and we want to do this restaurant. But now that we are 100% moving forward and construction's moving forward, we know exactly what the restaurant is going to look like. We even know, I think when I spoke to Gurov last time, he knows how many tables he wants to put in. We also know how many vignettes are going in and how many people are going to be seated there. And there needs to be some modeling, I think, done of what that looks like, how many parking spaces they're going to turn over. We need to review our leasing agreements and make sure that we don't have any issues with botanical gardens or historical society to utilize additional parking within that area. And then one of the things I spoke to the city manager is right now our park is open till what time? The Pioneer Park? Is it 9?
The playground's open till 9 p.m. The water feature closes at sunset.
Okay.
So the water feature may close earlier than the actual playground is open. Playground closes at 10, or excuse me, 9, but of course, the boardwalk is accessible 24/7.
Right, and I think we need to kind of factor those things in. Well, how much traffic is going, because the Botanical Gardens gets to make their own time of what they want to open. So we need to figure out how much parking they're going to need in the evening, because I think that's when the restaurant's going to have the most influx. In addition to that, same thing with the Historical Society, and then as well as the park. And the question becomes, do we keep the park open in the evening if we don't have adequate parking to make sure that we're not taking up spaces for the people that want to see the restaurant or go to the restaurant and be by the river in the evening. The other issue with the park is I don't know if you've had the same concerns from people said to you is, I don't know if I want to see kids in the park playing and people at the restaurant and people are drinking and at the tiki bar and those kind of things. And so before it opens, and before we have all of these concerns hitting us at once, I just think it'd be nice to have a workshop topic and flush it all out and do some modeling and kind of see. I know I'm looking at Chief right now. I'm sure he probably has some ideas too as far as what that looks like in the future. And then also if we don't have enough parking, where are we going to park people? And how is it going to all function? So I don't know how everyone else feels.
I think from a parking standpoint, it's something that we do have to address. We've talked about it for a long time now and what we can do to address the parking. And it might even be that we may need to acquire a parcel or something somewhere. We may need to look at some type of, if we're going to be putting events on there, then some type of like trolley service for our residents, because, you know, we can't just, like we did with the grand opening, we can't just keep busing people in. I know there is a plot of land for sale on Port St. Lucie Boulevard in Allen, and that might be an opportunity for parking there. So I think we do need to look at what those opportunities might be. It's very difficult in the area because it's mostly residential. And so I think there's going to be a lot of challenges with that. But I mean, we probably will have to address it. We're definitely going to have to address it at some point in the future. And hopefully while we're in this process before it gets built.
Okay.
So.
Madam Mayor, just to add to your conversation, yeah, I think we should workshop this. You know, we talked about the land that we just purchased right next to the McDonald's, where we can go vertical. There's a new lift elevator that you can stack vehicles up on top of each other, so that could be an option. The other option could be a trolley system where you have two trolleys going back and forth between on Veterans, because we do have some parking on Veterans after hours, so that's another opportunity. So I think what we can do is put together a presentation and then present it back to the council, and then we can make some decision based upon what we know. And you're absolutely right. If we have opportunities where we can purchase some of the houses right across the street, that's another opportunity that we can start creating small parking locations throughout Veterans.
And Madam Mayor, question about technology with our AI technology that we look at for people and cell phone data. Are we able to look up just Port St. Lucie, or are we able to look up anywhere in the country? Like, is it just, are we only able to look at our city, or can we look at anywhere?
Vice Mayor, we can definitely check into that. I know we could look at certain areas. It may be something that we would have to pay an upcharge for, but I don't think it's nominal. It's very nominal, but we could potentially pull information from wherever else they have
So
coverage.
the only reason why I'm saying is because being that these restaurants are coming in from the Atlas groups, and they already have restaurants throughout the country, if there's a similar size city or a similar city that has a similar size restaurant, it might give us some data and some information to kind of know how many people are in any given area for that restaurant at that time. I was just trying to think of how can we get data so we kind of know how many spaces we need. Because I think there's only like 263 spaces, I think, total?
On the entire site, there's about 330 spaces, including paved surface parking and grass parking, and that does contemplate shared parking between the Botanical Gardens Historical Society and the park site itself.
Right. Paved is like 260, right?
Probably about that.
Yeah, and
So
then-
we can definitely pave more, but I think the outlook right now was to leave the areas as green as possible and use it as overflow parking until such time as we do need to pave it.
And then do we know if Gurav has, or is it in his lease or requested to have valet spaces?
He has requested the ability to do valet service, and then we would identify an area where that could be handled.
Yeah, that's why I think we just need to have the conversation. Thanks.
A lot of it, even with some data, a lot of it we won't know until it's
Right.
activated, and we'll have to see. But to the point about parking, what about parking boats?
That
Because
too.
we're going to have a lot of boat traffic. So I remember a conversation where we can add more finger docks. And what is it? Can you remind us? Because I can't remember everything.
That's fine. This was going to be in my presentation tomorrow, so this would be like a preview, like an appetizer for
Okay.
tomorrow's
That's
presentation.
fine. It's important.
So we currently have 12 boat slips permitted with our current lease agreement with the state, which are the 2 that are already installed, and then we have 1 additional floating dock that would be installed down near Bridge Plaza. We have the ability to essentially daisy chain on that and add additional links. We can't go outward into the river because you would impede the traffic flow within the river. That would require a permit mod with DEP and some additional design for that to happen. But we've done some preliminary ones where I think we were at doubling capacity from the boat perspective, so going from 12 to 24.
Okay. I think we should probably plan for that and get it going, because it's gonna happen. You know, we talked about before getting permitting, before making sure we have it for when future projects are ready to get off the ground. But we definitely are we're gonna have a lot of boat traffic out there. I know we have the marine unit starting up soon, thank goodness, because once that is activated, it's definitely gonna be needed, because everyone's gonna be wanting to drive their boat in to go to the restaurants and to act on the spaces.
And we also looked at potentially having a dedicated area for the marine unit there in addition to their existing location.
Are we going to let them, they're going to do the floating docks eventually on the other side? Are we going to let them park there and walk over if they choose to?
Repeat your question on where.
So the
which-
floating docks on the Rivergate side, because eventually we'll have floating docks
sure.
there? Are we going to allow them to park there to be able to access the boardwalk if they choose to?
Yeah, so the conceptual plan did provide for some additional dock space over at Veterans Park at Rivergate as well. I think that's something we'll have to look at within that canal area, how much can be achieved in there and still have the proper turnaround for launching and things like that. So we're still reviewing that area, but obviously the connectivity with the boardwalk under PSL makes it a very logical solution. And speaking with the city manager, we've also talked about re-envisioning what Tom Hooper parking area looks like, because that's another great tract of land that we have the ability to go vertical on without impacting, a lot of existing infrastructure.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, we're going to move into half-cent sales tax. Oh.
All right, good afternoon. We had to do a little bit of a change in plan here. Mr. Salvador had to go take care of a sick child, so you get a colt now this time.
Yay.
Anyways, to get moving on the half-cent sales tax project, and we're starting to run out of food puns, but I guess we're onto the fruit platters here that we're going to have to talk about. So you've seen this presentation back in November. We were asked to go back and try and provide some more prioritization. So this is the update to those prioritizations, and as you can see, we've reached out to the LRTP, and thanks to Mr. Everett here, who is a whiz with computers and spreadsheets, we're able to take their prioritization formula and provide those to these projects. Then at the Citizen Summit, we also asked the residents to provide some voting and their prioritization. So again, as a summary here, we laid out 12 different projects, specific projects with locations, and then we also had citywide initiative projects that are not specific to locations. Then, when we go to the project listing, you'll see the LRTP score here, and then the Citizen Summit voting score. So what we tried doing is taking that data and information and then applying that and providing a staff recommendation based on that, as well as any kind of traffic volumes and crash data that we may have had. One project to keep an eye on here is also the Village Green Drive corridor revitalization. The reason I'm bringing that up is we are actively trying to pursue a build grant, which would provide $25 million to go towards that. From what we're hearing, it'd probably be June when we'd hear that. Timeframe is not good for trying to select on keeping it here or not, but that is a big chunk of money that could go to other projects if we decide to pull the Village Green Drive project out of the half-cent sales tax. It's particularly important to consider that because, and Stephen, please correct me if I'm wrong, the projections for the next 10 years are approximately $174 million in sales tax revenue. And as you can see, 18 different projects, $174 million will not cover all of that. So this has always kind of been an approach of using sales tax with other funds, bond funds, road and bridge, you name it, to try and get these projects done. So what we'd really like to is engage a discussion with City Council and try and narrow down this list, keep the list as is, and we try and divvy up the percentage of the sales tax funds, or do we try and, reduce it? Because if you are looking at St. Lucie West Boulevard, the latest projections for widening that are roughly $120 million, which leaves very little to next to nothing for the rest of these projects. Also, Okemuk drainage improvement projects. You had to see an update on that, which we've already been talking with Caroline and Nate, and we heard the directive to try and accelerate that, so we are definitely going to get creative with the design and procurement process and see what we can come up with. So right now, we're just trying to ask for direction, and I'd like to leave this up here and get some feedback. And if you have any questions on the ranking and the LRTP, we got Everett here that can help describe how the formula works. And last thing I'd like to say before we open that discussion is we know funding is going to be tight for everything going forward. So this formula for prioritization is something that we want to look at widespread throughout all of our projects. So these sales tax projects are our first stab at doing that, but that is going to be coming for all roadway improvement projects. And Mr. Peter Mayer is also looking into a similar type of formula to do that for drainage projects. That way we can truly be this data-driven approach and determining what projects to move forward with.
So real quick, what did you say about Village Green, about pulling it out? I was reading this, so what?
So, and Kate, correct me if I'm wrong, we are applying for a build grant to help get it constructed, which would be approximately $25 million. But again, we're applying, so it's not a given.
So,
You're asking whether we keep it or not? I'm trying to ask.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. Well, not keep the project, just keep it in the sales tax
Correct.
list.
Madam Mayor, just going to our conversation that we're going to be having, I think St. Lucie West, the half-cent sales tax is not going to be paid for at all, so we don't want to commit all the dollars because I know that we're going to have to bond some of that part of it, so it will be a combination of. So really, it's more high level. What's important to the council? Let's narrow down the major projects, and then we can say, okay, let's kind of work the numbers and come up with estimates, because right now you provide an estimate, and then tomorrow that estimate gets blown up. So I really kind of want to work from where the project, what's important to the council, and then see what projects are left, see where there are in the region as far as north, south, east, and west, because I think we want to cover the whole city. So it's really kind of planning out the whole city, understanding that not all the projects can be complete, but whatever's left, then I can use other dollars to try to supplement those. But it's really getting more of a feel for where is council when it comes to these projects.
okay, but, so the other component of this is we have mobility money. And what projects are we doing under mobility versus what projects are we
Okay.
looking at here? And it's hard for me to make a decision when I don't know what all those pieces look like.
Okay. Like the financial part of it, let us then come back and then fit the dollars. The mobility fees dollars are also going to be used for the bonding because you have to find a source to fund it.
Right.
Fund that bond and pay for it.
But what roads are in that plan? Like, I think we need a refresher of what's in that
Okay.
plan, because then we can say, oh, under mobility, under bonding, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and then we have these projects, and, you know, because like you said, we have to leverage, right? We're gonna have
Correct,
to use some money
correct.
for this and some money for that, and might have to put some mobility money into, put it together, so it's hard to do it in
Yeah.
my head, just looking at
Okay.
this,
Okay.
when,
Okay, so these are the projects we identify that are, should be part of the half-cent sales tax.
I know.
Are they going to be able to be funded strictly half-cent sales? There's no way.
Right.
So just working out of just this list for now, and you're right, I'll bring you the rest of the other projects just to see, because really, these are the major projects that I think we're going to be working on in the next probably 10 years. Identify your rankings. If you agree with our rankings, then we'll come back with the dollars and how they're going to be funded. I think
so there's no plan to use any mobility money for St. Lucie West. See what I'm getting at here? Like, I don't know. In order to have a broad conversation, kind of need to know what the other half, what other projects are we looking at for mobility?
So the previous projects that were slated for bond funding was St. Lucie West, East Torino,
See what I mean?
South Bend, Bayshore. Bayshore's for bond, and there was a fifth one, was in Torino.
Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, so I think, or at least for me, I'm comfortable with just keeping this list and keeping everything ranked. You know, the sales tax is over a 10-year period, and I think having everything on the list and ranked gives us the flexibility that we're going to need as an organization. If there are other funding sources, then the city manager can make that call. So I don't think we need to peer into the future or look at it in that in-depth level. We just have this list of our priority projects and then how they get funded.
Yeah, but the problem with that is, when we did the half-cent sales tax and we went out to the public the first time, we said, we are going to do all of these projects in that 10-year period. And we have the oversight committee that looks at that all the time and makes sure we're on track and reports to us that we are on track and we're getting it done. So we can say, we did all these. If we leave it open-ended, I can't get them all done to the public. None of us can do that. And that was the whole premise of going out to the public and showing them the list. And then based on that list, they voted it in. They voted to do it. So my concern is, if we don't give them a proper list and we say we are going to commit to doing these, then we're going to lose credibility. So,
And Madam Mayor, I guess my request to the city manager and staff would be to kind of limit the list to those projects that we're certain we can get done within 15 years or within 10 years, regardless of funding source. So, I mean, if you believe we can get all these projects done, then I think we say we need the half-cent sales tax to complete these projects. If you think there's, chance that we're not going to accomplish it, then I'd remove the lower ranked items, but.
and then the other.
What I can do is remove, well, if I leave St. Lucie West here, it's going to eat up a lot of the funding. So we may want to just look and say, you know what, let's remove St. Lucie West, but I think you want the voters to weigh into St. Lucie West because that's the thickest point. Or maybe look at a 50% share of 50% for half-cent sales tax and then 50% out of the mobility fees.
That's
to cover-
why that component
Yeah.
is so important for us to see in front of us, because then we can say, all right, if we're going to use some mobility money and we're going to use some half-cent sales tax for St. Lucie West, we know we're going to get it done within that period. See what I'm saying?
Right, so let's do this.
And then the other part is, we talked earlier about repaving or resurfacing and
Correct.
repaving, and we talked about how if we don't have half-cent sales tax money, we wouldn't have been able to get a lot of those projects done, so that's of concern to me too. So
I think the
this is a
issue.
it's a hefty list.
Yeah, the challenge part from lessons learned is that when we did the half-cent sales tax past 10 years, we did not hit the budget. We exceeded the budget by contributing more funding into Floresta. Floresta ate up a lot of our funding. So what I don't want to be in the situation is that we're going to go ahead and approve these projects. I have to tap into contingency, and I'm not going to have the contingency. So going back to your point then is take a step back, look at the list, make sure we're okay with these 18 projects, and then we'll come back and tell you how we plan on funding it. If there are certain projects that we can't fund, then we're just going to say we can't fund this, and it should not be part of the list.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
So I do think that it's challenging just because if we don't know the amounts, like for the projection is 174 million in revenue, if I don't know what those amounts are for each of these projects, it's kind of hard to quantify like what we think that's going to equal out to. In regards to St. Lucie West Boulevard, it's going to be phased, and that's where I'm kind of at is if there, I don't see us building St. Lucie West Boulevard or expanding it in one shot, or is that the plan? Because I don't see how we're going to do that. Are we going to do it in one shot?
I don't know how you
Well, the idea would be design in one shot, and then as the design, it would dictate the phasing approaches.
So is the proposed project that's listed here for design or for design and construction?
This is design and construction.
Correct.
So how long will it take to get designed, and then how much would it cost to get designed?
Okay. Well, right now, we are in the we're finalizing the feasibility study on it. So a typical design like this, we could say 18 months to 2 years, and we would push to get it done in 18 months.
Yeah, so,
And knowing that Floresta is a shorter road, I think.
No.
Oh, it's actually a little bit longer, it's 2.5.
Florista's
You're
a
right.
lot big, a lot bigger.
But do you think that we're going to be able to construct it within the 10-year period, the entirety of it?
You should be able to get that constructed. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of utility relocations that are going to happen.
And that's why I'm asking, because it's like, it's not an issue of whether the money goes to St. Lucie West. Obviously, it's probably the highest ranking project, the project we get the most concerned about. This is a half-cent sales tax. The public, all of it's their tax dollars, but for them to vote on this and to want this, it has to be the projects that are the most important to them. So St. Lucie West is important to them. I just want to make sure that if, like the mayor just said, if we're going to say we're going to build it, it's going to get completed. If it's not going to get completed, it's going to get phased out, and you think it's going to get phased out, then it may not be completed in all this in the sales tax. So then we can consider other projects. Because you know what? Here's the thing. I go back to that. As much as we need South Bend, we need all of these other projects. If St. Lucie West is the most important, and that's what the residents are going to be voting on, and that's what they want, and that's the only project that gets done, it's the only project that gets done. So.
Well, and I'm glad you bring up South Bend and East Torino, because as the mayor, or the city manager and Public Works pointed out earlier, the roundabout at Torino has really done a fantastic job of helping with traffic. So that's why we looked at corridor improvements in these feasibility studies that are getting finalized and done now. The thought is that they may show intersection improvements, so it may not be a full-on roadway widening of the entire corridor. It may be select intersections like East Snow and South Bend is one that we know that there's major concerns at, and that we don't want to specifically say it's going to be roundabout because we want the data to tell us that, but it seems like it could be a good candidate for one.
And I think that's pretty sound. I think we should look at that. I also think, in my experience speaking to the residents, because it's my district, they don't necessarily want to see more lanes. They just want to see more improvement in traffic flow. Everett, you've been at every meeting, so you know what those residents are saying alongside me. So if we can make that work, I think, and traffic is flowing and the road isn't failing, I think we'll still have to figure out, though, Tesoro, as it curves around. Council, it's been, every time we go to, Everett will tell you, every time we go to the South Bend meeting, it's a major concern of the residents there.
yeah, there's significant backups from Becker Road.
So-
And I've witnessed it, for sure.
Because the thing is, we have that concrete shoulder there that we have to decide if we're ever going to
Correct, because that section, essentially, I believe it's from East Snow down to Becker. It was already designed and set up for 4-lane divided.
And then I just want to share as well, the Sandpiper traffic calming and safety improvements. Recently, I went out and did another tour with staff, and I really, if council, if you have the time, just to go out there, even with staff or on your own, and I just go down Westmoreland from the start of it all the way down to US 1, and the disconnection in sidewalks is really bad. And the way, I mean, unfortunately, it's the oldest part of the city. And it happened to be that when I was out there, there was an elderly person who was walking and literally was just walking on the bike path, and because that's where the sidewalk broke out. And with all the traffic that's going down Westmoreland, first of all, I'm used to seeing Westmoreland full of traffic during peak times. That's common. At 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it was insane. Even midday, I could not believe how many cars were utilizing Westmoreland. To the point of some of the residents there that I've met with, once the restaurants open, we can foresee, too, other people utilizing Westmoreland even more because of its connection to the Port District. And so there's real concerns with the residents as far as safety and traffic calming. But immediately, as I was out there with staff, those disconnected sidewalks, which we've seen before, Colt and I have noticed before, especially around the roundabout, are major issues for the residents out there, and they have so much traffic. I mean, the numbers are, 30,000 cars per day at least?
I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I would like to, so this particular item here, when I talked to Colt, he might, I think he was saying he might look at other things as well, or shift it a little bit, right? Is that what you said when I talked to you?
Correct, yes. So Mr. Salvador, unfortunately, he had to step away, but he has been diving into that and providing some different cost estimates. So we're going to look at providing cost estimates on connecting the missing pieces of sidewalk so that there's at least a sidewalk on one side of the road for the whole stretch. We're also going to look at providing it for a complete street type of approach where there's sidewalks on both sides of the road, and get that information back to you.
So how come that wasn't in the sidewalk plan before? If we knew that we had those disconnected pieces, or is it in the sidewalk plan, it was already just projected further out? Because we have a 10-year master sidewalk plan that's also supposed to get done around the same time, if I'm not mistaken, that we said that we're going to have all these sidewalks and the arterials and collectors done by a certain date. So are these missing off that plan, or what happened there?
They are.
Yes.
So,
Bottom line is that we've been driving that road for many, many years, and we never looked at it that way. Because there, you do have some sidewalks in certain areas, in some areas you don't.
Correct.
You get down to Westmoreland, and we just missed it.
Yeah, and from my understanding, the main focus on the original master plan was getting sidewalks to schools. And so that was the driving force on that. Now, part of the next phase of the sidewalk master plan is completing these missing connections and getting connection into the neighborhoods.
And to Morningside too, because the school in Morningside.
well, Morningside is in my opinion, it's a major road, so it's not like it's it's residential, but it's
Exactly.
it's definitely a collector.
Well, and when you drive out there again and you just look, you'll see, so I think to the council, I don't know, but the council previously, there's sidewalks on one side of the road, but not sidewalks on the other side of the road. And then there's a crosswalk, and then you can crosswalk to connect to the other sidewalks across the other side of the road. So it's like this hodgepodge, and then you get to the bridge, and you lose sidewalk connection. And then when you get past the bridge, then there's like a random piece of sidewalk in the middle of nowhere, and then no sidewalk.
Okay.
So it's a definite situation
Okay.
that needs to be fixed, but.
Jesus?
Yeah, so, Madam Mayor, looking at the list we have here, we have 18 items that have been identified. There are quite a few studies that we have on some of the major roadways as identified here on the chart. So how about if we do this? Is there any items on this list that we think that should not be here, that council said, you know what, we don't want these items here? And then what I'll try to do is I'll come back and I'll look at funding whatever we can, part of the $174,000 half-cent sales tax, and whatever I don't, whatever more I need, then is going to be either bonded or grants and or be able to make it fit for these 18 projects. Because looking at some of the feasibility studies that we're working on, most likely is going to be determined that we're not going to need 4 lanes, some of these roadways here. So that's going to help us reduce the overall price.
Yeah, and to your point, so it says improvements on most of them. I don't necessarily know what all those improvements are. Like, I know what the Ross or Dreyfus is, you're talking about a roundabout there, right? Or a semi-roundabout.
Correct, that's the intent there.
Whatever you call that. But I don't know what Malaluca Berkshire is. I don't know what Malibu Green River is. I don't know what Selvage Peachtree is, so.
We'll
essential
provide you with
drainage,
and I'll
yeah.
provide a description which each project, and also how much the half cent sales tax will be funding, and any other bonding that's needed in order to complete the project.
Steph, you have something?
Yes. So one thing that just popped out was shade structures for benches. And I was like, okay, I thought we were supposed to be, and not that I'm against shade structures, don't get me wrong and throw tomatoes at me. Improve local roads, reduce traffic congestions, add sidewalks, and improve local water quality. So where does that fall in under the tax? And it's probably very minimal. The Selvets Macedo improvements and Selvets Peachtree improvements, I know it's slated for roundabouts there, which is much needed. It's a 2-lane road. It is a straight connection to Fort Pierce, going all the way down to Bay Shore, which is going to continue on around. It is much needed. Is there any way to combine those and make that as one project, Selvets / Macedo and Peachtree improvements? To combine it as one. I would imagine that if you went out for bid, you would probably get a better price for the same contractor or the same bidder to bid both of those, because they're within a mile and a half of each other.
So it'd be very similar to how we are attacking the PAR roundabouts at Darwin and Savona.
Okay, all right. Just a suggestion for that. The trails and land preservation, I was a little bit up in the air on that. So it would be nice to come back with a complete list and the pricing and the
And
whatever.
if we may add here, part of the shade structures and the trails and land preservation, and Sarah, I'm not sure where you are, but that was part of the polling that was done, and they polled pretty high that residents wanted shade structures and trails and land preservation.
But it was not in our wording for our sales tax.
For the first one, correct.
So I'm just wondering, does that need to be moved over to a budget item under Parks and Rec or wherever?
But based upon the polling, that's what the residents are requesting.
So when you bring it back, can you bring us back the easels so we can just see what that looks like? I know we
Thank
just
you.
had the Citizen Summit. I know you guys are trying to cram this all, get all that feedback and get it in for this, so, and that's understandable. But
Well,
it'd be good to see everything.
Sure, Mayor, we can bring that. Also, as in last year's National Community Survey results, we asked those questions at your request, like we did the first sales tax. We asked a number of questions, and the shade structures and trails was new. It was different than last year. This is a new priority for residents that did poll favorably as well in the citizen survey, as well as additional polling that was done.
Correct, and we do have the polling results if you'd like to.
Yeah,
So it would, Mayor, or Shannon,
go ahead.
it would be interesting to know, I know that the parks that are going in now, the shade structures are there and being placed. And I believe out at Woodland, is it Woodland Trails? They were added after the fact. So how many parks or benches do we need shade structures at? And any park that we're doing now going forward, I would imagine at Tradition and Torino, they're already going to have them included. So that's where I'm going. I don't want to get into the minutia, but it's just a thought. Thanks.
Okay, well, if you do want the polling data, we can show you that. We had it on slides that were hidden, so I'll be unhiding those. All right, so here you can see the results from the community survey, and you can see the pretty strong support where pretty much the lowest one was the improved traffic flow through Winding, including Torino Parkway, was 49%. Then you got 47% for connectivity and pedestrian safety through upgrading sidewalks. But
And then
of course,
Sandpiper has 47% too.
correct.
And sidewalks and roundabouts and sandpaper neighborhood, okay.
Yep. And then the next slide is also the sales tax renewal survey that was done.
Right.
But, so, from my understanding, we will work with the city manager's office. We will provide the preliminary cost estimates, and we're gonna start divvying up how much funding can go to each project and how much would be bond funding, other mobility funding, et cetera.
Well, yeah, and then we've talked about this in the past, about using the commercial paper to get the designs underway. We really need to make sure we're capitalizing on that, because we know that that takes years. And so we have till 2028 for the first, right, half-cent sales tax, so we're already in 2026, and it would be great to be able to, if it passes, which we hope it will, and the polling is showing that it will pass again, it will be able to be ahead of the game instead of having to wait till design some of these, and we could already have the designs on the shelves so that we're ready to go with construction funding when that is reauthorized. So, again, we're trying to stay ahead of
That's the intent.
what we're doing, so.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, is there, I see the polling and the Citizen Summit's total votes. Is there any other polling we're going to do to kind of make sure that we have our numbers?
So again, we did the Citizen Summit and the Community National Survey, but right now, that was the plan for the polling. And we are also under a time constraint on getting this adopted.
When does that have to be on
and
the
approved.
ballot?
Hey, Rich, do you know when we have to get this on the ballot?
So per the county attorney, they've asked for permission to advertise their ordinance for the half-cent sales tax. Their adoption date is March 17th. That leaves us 2 meetings just for informational purposes. You don't need a finalized list to request the ordinance from the county.
Okay.
I was planning on bringing that forward this Monday for your consideration, so we
Okay.
have enough time to bring it to the county for consideration.
When do
But
we need to finalize
they're-
the
They're
list?
mutually exclusive, like you don't have to do both at the same time.
When do we need to finalize the list by?
The list is in flux, basically. You have to have, there's an approved category of permitted infrastructure surtax expenditures, and so long as we have a current list, we can always amend that list down the road.
Okay. Well, we adopted it by ordinance twice, so, okay, we adopted by ordinance, I mean. So what I was going to say is that 2 things. One is, when you bring back the recommendations, and I'm trying to remember how we did it the first time, which was successful.
Right.
We need to not just look at what staff recommends and what the score is, we do need to weigh heavily where the residents want and what they want as far as their projects, because if it doesn't get 60% of the vote, it's going to be moot anyways.
Right.
So that needs to be heavily considered in whatever comes before council. Mr. City Manager, I don't know if you heard me. I know you got leaned in. I was sharing that whatever comes back to us, we have to make sure that the residents' opinion is highly considered in regards to what the final list that you propose to council. Because even if these things are fundable, but they're not passable, if we don't get 60% of the vote, it doesn't matter. We're not going to get it anyways. So I remember, if I remember clearly last time when we came up with that list that we thought it was going to be, we did send that particular list out and polled. We can go back and look. I think that's how we did it. Then we adopted it. The council adopted that by ordinance in those particular projects. And then the ballot language was the ballot language, but that's how we were explaining it to the residents if this is what was actually going to be passed. Am I missing history here?
No, I think you're correct. We'll go back and look at what was done, and I think we've already done that. I know, Christina, you had something to add?
Yes, I just wanted to give you an update, and Sarah can please chime in as well, too. We spoke with the county and with also Fort Pierce on our sales tax call on Friday, and we talked through when are the project lists due, and I believe we agreed like August, right, so that they can start educating on it, so by August to have that finalized with each of our municipalities. The one other thing that we also did talk through, and Mr. Barrios, maybe follow back up with them as well, too. They did mention to us that their public hearing is on March 17th, and that Fort Pearson and the city of Port St. Lucie would then follow with a reso the following week, which would be March 23rd, because for them to have the public hearing, if we did the reso prior, they wouldn't have not held the public hearing, so it's not been finalized or put out to the public that it would happen after the fact, that the reso would be after their public hearing.
So what I'm referencing is so the sales tax itself is initiated by the county, right? It's an ordinance that then turns into a referendum for the voters. What they're asking for in advance of the 17th, because it's an ordinance for them, but we require 2 readings just like us. So they're having their advertising first hearing, I think, on the 2 weeks before the 17th, and then the adoption hearings on the 17th. County attorney has asked for the resolution by us requesting that they adopt the ordinance in advance of that March 17th date.
So we don't have to have the list by then? We just have to
No, you
ask
don't.
for it in a
Correct.
resolution?
You have until about
All right,
August.
so so when? 2 weeks before March 17th? Did you say? That's like that's
Well, I have.
Monday.
We have a legislature item that's,
You have it already on the
Yeah,
agenda?
it's already on there.
For the
already
reso?
approved.
Oh, then
Yeah.
we're fine.
Yeah.
Then that's fine.
we're good.
Okay.
We
So-
just got to work on the list and the
Yeah,
items.
and all that.
And the split and the cost.
And I mean, the survey results are very favorable for a mix of all the things that, I mean, it's very favorable. Like, everything's in the 50 and 60% range. 2 of them are very close to 50%. So when you have the mix in place, we know that we're already over that percentage number. So, and our national survey is out right now. So it's not hard to match up from 2025 to 2026, what that looks like in terms of what our residents are telling us we want. Plus, we already have the feedback from the Citizen Summit, so I
And
think
Madam-
we're okay.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I know the number one just got from Sabrina, completed the analysis of the money exercise, and traffic improvements is our number one request from residents at the Citizen Summit. So
Right.
definitely think you're on target.
Madam Mayor, I will also add that the county has done their own survey, which included Port St. Lucie residents, and it came back almost exactly the same as ours, and theirs was done several months later. So the surveying is all kind of saying the same things so far.
Great. All right,
So we'll bring it back to council.
okay,
Thank you.
sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, strategic plan?
Madam Mayor, would you like to hear a presentation? I know on the strategic plan update, we also have the Public Works High Impact Plan, so I just wanted to ask the council if we could either give a presentation, answer questions. Some of the projects in the strategic plan are CIP related, so I just wanted to ask for the will of the council.
There's duplication?
I'm sorry?
I said, so you're saying there's duplication?
There's some, I mean, I wouldn't repeat, of course, if you've already heard about it, but I just wanted to ask. I know it's about 4:15, so I just wanted to ask and see where you'd like to land.
I'm okay with not doing it right now. Because, like I said, I think a lot of it is a duplication, but, so I think, because that's even more broad scope, and we already
Sure.
went through all the
Absolutely.
major projects, so we're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just review the presentation. If I have questions, I'll ask tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. So do we want to be done for today, and we'll start tomorrow with Public Works High Impact Plan?
Sure.
We good, since it's already 4:15, and we're scheduled only to be here till 4:30 anyway? Good with that? All right. All right, so we are done for the day. Everyone have a good evening. See you all tomorrow.